We're live. This is the Rose, and now we're entering into the world of authors and experts right here on Colombo Chronicles. And we're here for you every Wednesday, bringing you a fabulous guest. And today we are bringing you a very fabulous guest. He is an American novelist. His name is G.L. Gooding, and he is the author of Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls, the literary sequel to one of the world's favorite Christmas films, It's a Wonderful Life, starring James Stewart, Donna Reed, and Lionel Barrymore. Gooding's historic mystery novel picks up a few days after the movie ends and gently explores the aftermath of a mean-spirited crime, the psychology behind personal and professional motivation, and the powerful conflicts between good and evil. Met with glowing industry reviews, Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls is a loving and sensitive tribute to the wonderful people of Bedford Falls and to the larger-than-life Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life. G.L. Gooding and wife Sarah live in Santa Rosa, California, and is at work on his next novel, which will be a mystery. So let's get started and say hello to G.L. Gooding, the author of of Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls. Hi, Gary. How are you today?
Fine, Rose. Thank you so much for having me. And it's easy, I would think, to get the two confused because they do blend together, I hope.
Yes, they do. And we're excited to have you because one of our favorite classic movies around the nation, maybe even around the world, of course, is the wonderful story of It's a Wonderful Life. So we're excited to know that you wrote Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls because it's such a warm and cozy, just all-American story. So why don't we get started and ask you, what motivated you to write this suspenseful novel, Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls?
Well, you've already touched on one of the main reasons. I drove my wife and children crazy watching the movie at least once, if not twice, every season. And every time I went to put it in the player, they would somehow disappear. So love of the movie certainly was an initial a motivator. But in watching the movie, I'm a Gemini, so I was crying at the end of it, but part of me was also the very rational thinker saying, well, this isn't the end of it. I know they replaced the money, but somebody's going to say it's still missing and we have a crime going on here. So what would that look like? And then, of course, during the whole movie, everyone in the movie was very upbeat and positive, especially at the end, with the exception of Henry Potter and his mute assistant. And that always struck me as interesting as far as how that lovely movie was ended with this kind of like dark cloud over on one corner. And I said, that guy's really an interesting character, and probably I could do something with that if I put my mind to it. And I finally left work, my regular job, and took on a new one. I think this one's harder. So I decided to start a story, and it was kind of like a sculptor with a piece of stone, when you don't know what's inside until you start chiseling away. And a lot of the story was a surprise to me as it unrolled. But thankfully, it all came together into. Go ahead.
Oh, I think that's very common with writers. I think that you start out, like you said, and then suddenly you find yourself, well, maybe I'll insert, maybe that's good. Maybe I'll take that out and put this in. I know, it's almost like it's a movie in your head, right? I bet that was a great movie in your head going on.
Oh, absolutely. And it was always keeping me on track as I wrote, because I could literally close my eyes and see George or Potter or one of those characters whenever I was at a loss for how to perhaps portray them. And the other element that comes up in the book and came up in the book, I'm a real historical novel fan, and I was able to work in through some flashbacks into some history that kind of fit the profile of the characters in the movie. So I ended up writing a historical mystery novel that doesn't have a lot of blood and gore in it.
Oh, that's a good thing, though. So,
right.
I was going to say, how careful were you to maintain the integrity of the classic film in your literary endeavor?
Well, there was no way I wanted to taint the magic and message of the movie. It's clear based on the evolution and growth of the audience, the current audience that's embracing the movie more and more every year, that there's something in the movie that speaks to people, especially in times like we're dealing with, which are so chaotic and filled with a lot of ugly things that we just as soon not face. So this movie and the message is important to keep, and that was one of my goals, to maintain the integrity of the movie and the characters, and build on that through the exploration of Potter specifically and his past, and projecting into the future how knowledge about that might change his life and change the life of the people in Bedford Falls.
Oh, interesting. So what do you want fans who read your book to take away from it, Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls?
Well, first, I'd like them to put it down and feel good about the read, to feel good about the story they've just read and the message that it's maintaining, sustaining, and to recognize, for people to recognize that it's not that people don't have tragedy and negative challenges in their lives. We all have that. It's not that we don't have them, it's how we deal with them when they come. And that's important, and that you can have an opportunity to seek forgiveness and make amends. That's why the subtitle is Second Chances to the book. So those are things I would hope everyone would leave with.
So how are the characters in the book different from how they are in the movie, and do you have an angel in your book?
Yes, I do have an angel in the book. He's kind of under wraps in a way. It's it certainly plays a more active role in the book than Clarence did in the movie, but there are subtle hints along the way. But yes, there is an angel that plays a very important part in the role. I won't give away any more than that. The characters in the book, I think, differ because, as with any novel compared to a movie, you have a lot more time and opportunity to develop the characters. And I think if I made George a little bit more human in terms of his angst and challenges that he faces, still confronting Potter in his life. And also Potter gets a significant amount of attention, and the evolution of why he is the way he is and what he becomes is part of the fun I had in writing the book.
So, did you ever own a business, and did it have any effect on your storyline?
Well, I was an independent consultant for much of my life, so I was in and out of a lot of businesses doing management consulting, human resource kind of work, and I saw a lot of people that were struggling with their business because they were too much George Bailey, and others who were struggling because they were too much Henry Potter. And I did a lot of work to help both sides of that equation, because in my experience, there is a balance. You can't run a business, at least a for-profit business, without making a profit. But you don't have to do that by on the backs of other people, which is kind of the image of Henry Potter. So I think those things certainly were guiding forces in my writing.
Well, we're talking to G.L. Gooding. He's the author of Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls. You're listening to Colombo Chronicles Live.
Colombo Chronicles Live. Colombo is on their trail. Listen up at Colombo Chronicles Live.
And we're talking to Gary, and he's done a remarkable job on a book that everybody will love because it's a sequel to It's a Wonderful Life. So, in business, did you ever meet people who are as evil as Mr. Potter or as kind-natured as Mr. Bailey?
Well, I actually worked for a Henry Potter type at one point. I didn't stay there very long. I was younger and naive at the time to think I could have some influence on that person, but I certainly learned a lot of how not to do things. So yes, I can relate to that. I've also probably had more interactions with the George Bailey types, often helping them to take on the challenges of a business with a little bit more head and a little less heart, because that was getting them in trouble. But clearly there are messages throughout the movie and carry into the book about little subtle things that I, having seen the movie so much, that I pick up on. The stories about the houses that they build so people can stop paying rent to Potter, but at the same time, George is selling them at such a low price that in today's world, he would be out of business, or his stockholders or shareholders would have been running him out of town on the rail. So, those are all elements of my life that found their way into, if not into the words, at least into the thinking that went into the words.
Fantastic. And so it's interesting because you were born at the very same time period as the movie and book. So how difficult is it to write a historic novel when so much of daily life has dramatically changed?
Well, in actuality, I was born 4 days before shooting on the film started. And I was born in Southern California, probably 15 miles from where they started shooting at the gym in Santa Monica High School. Anyway, I digress. Found this particular book to be easier to write than the one I'm writing now, from the standpoint that I was born at that time. Many of the things that were going on at that time continued. It's not like today, where technology today is old tomorrow, but there were things that were familiar. And then I had a very wonderful mother who told me stories over and over again about life in those times. So it was not as difficult as it might otherwise have been. But I do think, going back to a point I made earlier, that clearly the lifestyle there and the pace of the movie, and even the fact that the original's in black and white, is what part of what's drawing in its popularity and among different generations that it's growing, is because those were definitely different times. The pace was different and a little bit more black and white. So maybe that's because I'm older. Black and white is I'm much more comfortable in that zone than that gray area.
Yes, I think a lot of people today are in the gray area. They need to make a choice.
That's right.
Yes, and so one of the hardships that you faced that I read about was when writing Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls with severe vision issues. So what happened, and how did you persevere to finish the book under such trying circumstances?
Well, let me start by saying, if I'd known what was going to happen, both in terms of being a naive rookie novelist, and all the issues that would bring, but more so the what was going to happen in the middle of this book, I probably wouldn't have started. I have a condition called ocular histoplasmosis, which is a lot like macular degeneration, except the blind spots that are generated are random in the eye and the retinal wall. So not only can they block central vision, but they can block peripheral vision and other parts of my vision. So when I look out my left eye, I can see something maybe okay, but in the right eye, because of the angle I'm looking, it's gone. I switch to the right eye, it's gone in the left eye. So was an interesting process learning to cope with that. So there's a facility in Santa Rosa called the Earl Baum Center for visually impaired folks, and I went there and got a lot of assistance, use of computer, bigger monitors, things along those lines that allowed me to continue to write, although it is often interesting when I edit to see what I actually wrote versus what my eyes thought I wrote. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's embarrassing. But I have a wonderful support system. My wife was there, put up with my frustrations and angst, and helped me in so many ways to persevere. My mother was still alive. She just passed away at 102. But I was committed to getting the book done and to her. I got it to her on her 100th birthday. I gave her a draft of the book, and in fact, the month before she died, she was reading it again. And although it was disconcerting for her to keep saying, "I can't believe you wrote this book," I didn't know exactly how to take that. So anyway, and I was raised, pretty poor and by a family. And my mother's motto was, "I live long because I was poor and didn't know it." And she raised us to be, to persevere, and certainly that helped me through in this regard. So not only did I finish the book, but I'm working on more. So I'm thankful that I can see the way I can.
I think you just touched on something that's very important. I think the people who grew up in America prior to the new millennium actually were taught to, no matter what your circumstances are, whether your parents were middle class or poor or upper or whatever, you still had to earn your way and persevere no matter what. And nobody really paid attention that we were deprived of cell phones and $500 Nikes, and just,
right.
Our parents would have laughed at us. It's like, are you kidding me right now? You want me to buy you a $2,000 computer? Oh, sure. And so, we had to persevere and figure out how to earn money and do chores, and if we wanted something really important other than Christmas or birthdays. And I think that's missing today. I really do, and I think that's going to touch in your book, which I'm excited to hear that, Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls, because it would be great if those values were brought back in perseverance, that, yes, you can do it no matter what your circumstances are. And so I wanted to ask you, too, with your vision. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to echo what you're saying, Rose. I completely. The one thing I would add is we had all of the perseverance and self-reliance and so forth, but the final element of that is the pride that comes from succeeding under those circumstances. And when people are out of work or by choice or by chance, and they're living based on welfare, the first thing that goes is that pride. And when that goes, it's very hard to stop the slide downhill. So I think the satisfaction I got from writing the book was as high a reward as I will ever get from anyone reading the book.
Yes, it's a total achievement to actually sit down and actually put effort into writing a book, and unless you've done it, you really don't understand it. But it's like any other art, whether you're a painter or creator of sculpture, whatever it is, it takes love and passion and effort and devotion to what you're doing. And it's got to be with love for what you're doing. And I did want to ask you about your eyes, too, because there's a lot of people that have problems with their eyes. Did they suggest that you drink carrot juice every day, or, fresh carrot juice every day, and take lutein and vitamin E? Because those are excellent things to help your eyes, improve, as well as I was listening to a doctor who said if you do eye exercises every day, that helps as well. Did they encourage any of that?
Oh yes. I take. I don't drink carrot juice every day, but I have medications that I take over the counter, like Ocuvite, which is one that I recommended. Fish oil, the carrot juice, of course. I don't know. I'm not doing my eye exercises. Are probably basically sitting in front of the computer and adjusting the size of the type up and down all day long. So I'm probably remiss in that area. But they certainly talk about and offer up a plethora of options in terms of ways to try to strengthen your eye. And in my particular case, the disease is generated by bleeding blood vessels in the back of the retinal wall, and I got eye injections in both eyes for 4 straight years until I stopped, because it was becoming more potentially problematic than in the shots were helping to stop the blood from bleeding, but it was also adding to the potential of thinning the retinal wall, which would have just created the problem in a different way. So I don't mean to make it sound awful, but in my case, it was the direct application of those injections that stabilized my eyes to the point they are today. I am compelled and motivated to continue to write, because I don't know how long it will be before or if I have a relapse or things decline. So I have a sense of urgency about what I'm doing.
Well, we'll keep you in our prayers and for healthy eyes and so that you can continue to write more books, because I thank you for sharing that, because, when we have problems, it's good to share the information and let people know they're not alone and that they can achieve writing a book or doing their art or whatever they do, their hobbies, like you have done and persevered to do and continue to do. And so that's fantastic. And you know what? It makes the book even more intriguing to me to read, Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls. And so your suspenseful novel has tackled subject matter which is close to the hearts of movie fans around the world. How has your work been received? Well,
being a new book, it got its first aggressive release last fall. It got a nominal readership. It's a very competitive world, as you know, Rose, out there. There are lots and lots of books out there, but since the book is timeless and I get opportunities to talk to nice people about the book like you, I'm very optimistic that this is going to grow in popularity, just like the movie has been rediscovered. And so, but the reviews, those that have read it, both that have taken the time to put reviews on Amazon, have been glowing, and they're not my relatives, or at least not all of them. So there's some truth in what is saying, and I'm gratified to hear some of the things they say about the book, about reconnecting with the movie characters and the mystery and the surprise, the aha ending and the concluding message. So those are all things I was striving for. That's what I've been hearing.
Well, the reviews are fantastic. Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls is a sweet and surprising follow-up that adds unimagined dimensions to a holiday classic. That is one quote. Fans will come away with a familiar sense of warmth in their hearts. Another quote. A creative and moving follow-up to a beloved story. And Goodreads says the story has elements of power, control, character, assassination, commitment, and human endurance, all of which fold together to make for a riveting read and defies the expected. It is no cookie-cutter story and will have you thinking twice about how things will end. Character development is one of Gooding's fortes. And Amazon says, high praise is due Mr. Gooding for telling his intricate tale so well that he proves one can take a good thing and make it even better. So it has been a pleasure talking to you, G.L. Gooding. And
thank you, Rose.
Now is your time to shine. You can give any message you want to our audience and about you or your book, and also any social media you may have or how they can purchase your book.
Well, you can go to my my Facebook page, GL Gooding. I also have a website, glgooding.com. They can buy the book there, or they can get it at Amazon. It's in hardcover, paperback, and ebook. Which, for I call myself the blind guy. That's how I read most of the books, because I need to make them big, the type bigger. But anyway, so it's available in all of those locations, and I probably left some things out, but that'll certainly get the people to the book. And after you read all those things and reminded me of them, I think I'll go out and buy the book myself.
I think I'm going to do the same thing after the show.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
I'm one of your fans.
All right. Thank you.
Maybe
we'll
so
talk
much,
again sometime about my next book.
That'd be fantastic. You have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And G.L. Gooding has left the building, and you can purchase his good book on Amazon.com. Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls. You can look him up on Facebook, G.L. Gooding.